concentric circle of stories is what's going on in our local world. And then fourthly, there's the world global, the economy, jobs, what's happening to us as a nation, people who have children or parents who are at war in Afghanistan or in Iraq. All kinds of things that go on within our nation affect us. Stories are critical. Even if you watch a soap opera, and I absolve you for that in advance, but even if you watch a soap opera, it's a story. You know, honestly, you can watch a soap opera and not watch it for 3 or 4 years and pick it right up one day, and you basically, you can pick, oh, wow. Well, he wasn't with her before, and look at that mess, and, whatever. We can pick it right up. There's something powerful about stories. What is it about stories? And why is it that they're important? Well, stories remind us of our similarities as human beings. We often look at what's different among us, but there's a lot more similar among us than there is different. And stories is how we learn. The reason stories are important because they give us a shared history and a shared memory. I've been thinking about, because some of you are starting to read Wendell Berry's books, and because he writes a series, some have asked me, well, should I start with book 1, which is a very, intelligent question. But the truth is, you can start anywhere with Wendell Berry's books, because it's like life. When you met me, you didn't know my entire back history. You met me in the moment. And little by little, you and I began to share stories with each other so that we begin to know each other. And we sort of work from the present backwards and with hopes toward the future. And that's how I read novel series like Wendell Berry. You can pick them up in any of the books. And it's about life. Stories are what bring us together. They remind us that we're human, that we have more in common than we have that are different. And I was thinking about the importance of stories with children. Now, just fasten your seatbelts for a minute, and I'll get you through this. The thing that I'm concerned about is what Nancy read in Deuteronomy. The importance of telling our stories to our children and grandchildren. The importance of them knowing our stories, who we are, our identity. And that requires time and attention. It means shutting off some of the technological stuff that we play with and sitting and having a meal together sometimes and telling the stories over and over. Diane Burlew told me last week that about every New Year's, Bob's family begins or historically they have told some old stories. And they've been on this island, Bob's family and descendants, Bob Williams' family and descendants, been 10 generations here. And they get together occasionally and begin telling stories. And Diane was telling me a couple of those stories. Our kids need to know our history as families, and they need to know about the people around them, but our stories also teach our values and what's important. Jesus didn't take straight text out of the Old Testament. He would have lost the crowd. He told stories about farming and fishing and people not getting along with each other and people getting caught, making some big mistakes in their lives and bad choices and how they turned it around. We learn from our stories, and so as adults, let's not assume the kids don't want a story. We just need to know how to tell our stories to them and engage them and hook them. There's no magic trick to building friendships or community. It just requires time. What brings families together is when we take time. How well do you know somebody if you're always going through McDonald's on the fast food lane? And always in a rush. I'm suggesting to those of you who are older in our congregation, we need your stories. This is why what happens at the Harbor Cafe week after week is important. When we have 4 generations sitting there and stories are being told and people are laughing together, kids learn by what they see, not by what they are told. Stories, Nell Nodding said, have the power to direct and change lives. You want your kids to understand life and grandkids, read them a fairy tale. Someone went to Einstein once and said, I'd like my child to be a scientist. Can you tell me what to do? And he said, read the child more fairy tales. Stories have power. Not just the stories from the Bible, but the stories of our lives. We're a storytelling people. I've told you a story about Delbert and me this morning and the chocolate pie that Catherine ate, and you will remember that because it was a story. I could have stood up here all morning and talk about God said, let's tell each other stories, but we have to illustrate it and connect it. Stories are important, your stories. When you tell your story and people are interested in what you are saying, you feel valued. And the same for me. We feel valued when we listen to each other. We are more wired as a culture. We can text message more and instant message more, and yet we are less connected. We need to be able to look at each other in the eyes, which we cannot do. Text messaging. I'm not against this stuff. I'm just saying we need that plus. We need human relationships. So let's enjoy and celebrate stories this morning and tell some good ones. And yes, how about a few whoppers occasionally? Amen to 2010.